Hello, everyone. Hope you are well. My name is Sam Wilde. I am a professional set, costume, and puppetry designer, as well as the artistic director for cardboardadventures.co.uk, which is my craft, pattern, and theatre company. It is a pleasure to see you here today. I am here to show you today how to make this. This is Big Fish. Isn't she a whopper? She is a puppet that features in The Lostopus, which is our YouTube series. You can find the details on our YouTube channel, which if you're seeing this, I'm guessing you already know about. Do check it out if you haven't already, and you'll see this little thing in action. Now, first thing you need to do when you're making this is head open to the company, cardboardadventures.co.uk, where you will find a pattern that you'll be able to download. Now, that pattern comes in two parts. The first and most important part is the pattern pieces. Okay, so these will give you the shapes you need to cut out of cardboard. Each piece may have a name, but it also has, some of them have a number, which will tell you how many of that piece you need. And also some of them have a grain direction arrow. Now that is super important for this particular puppet. What is the grain, I hear you ask? I shall tell you. Now, cardboard is a wonderful and many varied thing. Here we go. And it has a little grain to it. You can sort of see the arrows in all running in one direction. That's because of the corrugation down this thing. Now, you want the arrow on our pattern to point in the same direction as those arrows. Why is that important? Well, I sometimes think of this as it's like straws covered in paper, sandwiched between two bits of paper. And as coincidence has it, I happen to have that for you right here. Straws sandwiched between two bits of paper. Now, this is really useful because it means it wants to bend this way. It will create a lovely motion this way, but if I try and bend it the other way, I can do it, but it's not a lovely thing by any stretch, okay? That's super important. As you can see with my fish, it gives us that motion. That's what's making that work, okay? The other part of the pattern that you'll get is the step-by-step illustrated instructions in case you don't want to look at my face while you're crafting, which I completely understand. Enough of this chit-chat, shall we? Shall we get on? Now, I've already cut out all of my pieces, so you won't have to watch me do all of that. The first bit I'm going to take is this bit. This is our spine. With my grain running like this, I'm going to give it a little pre-roll, curve. I'm just going to encourage that bend and get it ready. Now, if you're making a fish for use on stage or your puppet's going to get really heavy use, what you might think about doing is rather than making this piece out of cardboard, you might want to make it out of a non-stretch fabric. Leather is ideal if you can. It's by no means essential. What we're making today will completely work. It's just if you want to use it a lot, that's the step I would take. It is the only difference I would take in the whole process. Everything else will work exactly the same. I would just make this bit out of ideally leather. You could also just get a strip of leather and cut a notch in this. That would work just as well. Or even just use small sections of leather just to cover those joins. But this is what we're going to use today. Right. So I've that cut out, sat down. I am going to get my fin pieces, and I am going to apply hot glue, which is already preheated and ready. And I am just cutting these two tail sections over the tail section of the spine. They should fit in place wonderfully. So there you can see, look, I've just sandwiched those together. So that end is slightly thicker. That is to give it a bit more strength, but it's also to give it a little bit of extra weight so that when we get that wobble, it does the wobble. Make sense? Brilliant. That's that step. On to my next step. I am going to take these pieces, the back. Now I've got two of these, but I will deal with them separately. First one. I'm going to take my spoon. We are going to do this on almost every piece. So do keep this in mind. We're going to repeat it over and over again. I'm going to take my spoon and I am just going to run it around the edge of these pieces. okay? Just to flatten down those edges. It just makes those joins a little bit more forgiving when the time comes. And then also this piece has got a fold line on it. So I'm just going to encourage that fold as well as carving it against the grain. We don't have to treat each piece with this much reverence, but this is our first one and we need to get it right, don't we? Always try and get the first step first. Right. So you should end up with something that looks a little bit like this. You see, I've got a slight curve to it. I've got a slight upward bend to it, and I've squashed all my edges. I am then going to take a bit of glue and put it on the spine, just there. I'm going to pop that into place. I'm just going to take a second to hold it. Hold it down. Enjoy the sunshine. Look at the clouds. Let that set. Brilliant. Let's turn that around. Now I'm going to get one of these pieces. This is the number one piece. Okay, we've got loads of these in this pattern. These are going to be the bits that go in between. Okay, so they're really important. I've got a hole cut in the middle. I am going to fold it on the fold line. I am going to take a moment to make sure that I have folded it properly in half. I don't want to end up with slightly in half or not completely. Taking the time here to get this piece right is going to really serve us later on. Fold it in half. There we go. I'm going to take my spoon and I'm going to squash those edges. Whenever we squash an edge, that is the piece we're going to... So I'm not squashing the one side, flipping it over and squashing the other side. I'm just squashing one side, and that side I squash will be my inside piece. Going to thread it through my spine. There we go. And we should find that it sits nicely. And I'm going to take some of my wonderful tape and I'm just going to guide it into place there. Bump. I want this to be symmetrical, so I'm just double checking it from the other side before getting my bit of glue, and I'm just running that along the inside joint. And whilst that sets, I'm going to get my next back piece, and I'm going to do exactly the same what I did for the last time. So I'm going to fold it, pre-curve it, I'm going to find that fold line, I'm going to get my spoon, I'm going to bend those edges, flatten those edges, but you can see I want to bend it in the other direction, don't I? So this one slightly curves out with it, so that fold is here and it folds outwards. The other side is going to go the other way. So there we go. We're going to put a bit of hot glue on there and then round these edges as well on this case. And then I'm just going to hold it in place and I'm going to squeeze these bits together. There is an awful lot of waiting in this particular one. In this particular pattern, there is an awful lot of, okay, now do this and wait for your glue to cool, okay? We can't all be as naturally cool as Sam Wilde. I'll cut that out in the edits. Now, one of the reasons that this pattern is quite high on our difficulty scale is because there's lots of what I call closing the unit in it. Right, I'm going to put a bit of line of glue along there. Probably going to be a little bit overly generous with it. Now, we don't need to rush with the glue. We can take a little bit of time, get it right, get it in the right position. At the same time, you don't really want to dally, but I'm going to use a little bit of tape just to hold that in place. I'm going to leave that to dry now, leave that to cool, but when I do that, I'm going to leave that so the join is on the bottom. So I'm leaving it this way. I've just put glue here and leave it like that so that the hot glue just seeps in the way. I don't want it to fall into somewhere I don't want it. I want it to seep into the join there. I'm going to do that. And while that is happening, I'll just put it to one side. Right. The next bit is the middle. Now the middle looks like this. It is this shape with a little notch on it. The notch will be the top of the fish. If you look at it, this one, this is our middle section. This notch will be where our dorsal fin comes out. Okay? Exactly the same as what we did with the back. I'm going to pre-curve it. I'm going to get my spoon. I'm going to flatten that edge. I'm going to flatten this edge. Flatten this edge. Flatten all of the edges. There we go. Like so. I'm going to get the number 1 piece. Treat it exactly as I did before. Fold it. Making sure I get it in half. Get my spoon. Flatten those edges. Get my tape. And it is going to go, you'll find it fits on one side. So the narrower end is the first end. It's going to go in there. There we go. Looking good, fitting perfectly. So it should look like that. And then we are going to do the exact same bit on the other end, but with the number 2 piece. Okay, slightly bigger, number 2 piece. Fold it in half, making sure you get it in half. Flattening those edges with your spoon. Applying some tape, making sure, I always join point to point to begin with. So it should look a bit like that. Okay. Then, just as I did before, I'm going to put the spine through it. And through number 2. The tail is symmetrical. Okay, so that could go this way or this way. The middle piece, the back piece, sorry, is not. It's got this notch on it. So that gives us a top. Okay, this is the top of the fish now. Beforehand, it could go either way. Now this is the top. I'm just going to apply hot glue along that join where the numbered piece, 1 or 2, joins this middle section. But I'm not going to glue this piece in, the spine in. I'm going to leave that. If you're really keen, or if you're using fabric, you might want to do that. But for the cardboard one, I'm not going to bother. The reason for that will become clear when we attach the head. Whilst that's happening, I will take my next middle piece. I'm going to pre-curve it. Curve it so that we have that unit. There we go. So it'll curve together like this. So I want this one to curve out like so. I am going to take my spoon, just as we did before, and just as we will do again, flatten all of those edges. There we go. Even that little notch. And then I'm just going to check it out. Yeah, looks good. I'm going to get a little bit of tape. Now, I'm going to glue this in place now, but we do not want to put any glue around that top notch. Okay? We want to leave that clear. There we go. So I'm going to put glue here, here, here. I can be a little bit generous with it, but we don't need loads. Here, here, here. But you want your glue gun to be really hot, because when we put that in position, we want the glue to flow into the right place. Okay? Being careful, glue gun burns are no joke. You might find you need to squeeze it a little bit. Oh. There we go. Joining those bits together, making sure that it bows out slightly. In fact, I'm just going to hold this like this. And again, we wait for it to cool. There we go. So now the next step is, as I say, closing the unit. And I'm going to put glue. And then once I've got it, I'm going to append it. And then we'll do the next step with that. Whilst that's happening though, I'm just going to show you this. So this is my dorsal fin. There are 2 of these and I've pre-glued them together. So there's 2 layers, one on top of the other. The other thing that I think is fun, just while we're waiting for that to do, is with my fit, I quite like when you take the top layer of cardboard off and it shows the corrugation. I think that's really nice for these fins. And I do that by making sure I've got the grain running in the right direction. And I use like a bamboo cocktail stick. You get them all over the place. And that's just the right size to slip down inside of that. And I pull off. There we go. And put that to one side. Get rid of all these little offcuts. So now this should have joined. And we're going to do exactly the same thing, but with the number 2 piece to the middle again this time. Okay, and once that is drying, turn it over, let it rest. So there we have it. So the glue should have set by now. And whilst that's set, all I've done is taken the extra layer off the back of my dorsal fin, and I've just gone around just removing some of the tape. Okay, so there we have it. Should look a bit like that. And you can see now why it's super important that you get that grain running in the right direction. That allows that movement. We wouldn't have that movement if it wasn't. Right, so you should have a completely clear notch on the top of your middle section. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to get a bit of glue. I'm going to put my nozzle in there and I'm going to apply hot glue just around the inside of that notch. So I've put it just around here and around here on the inside. I'm going to get my dorsal fin, and there's a little knack to this. So what I tend to do is I slip it inside, the front one moving first. There we go. And once I've got it like that, I just make sure I pull it completely up and I give it a little squeeze just to hold it in place. There we go. And now I'm just going to put that to one side, and we are going to move on to the front piece. Now the front piece looks like this, and the process for it is exactly the same as those last 2 pieces. Pre-curve it, get my spoon, flatten those edges, which creates an inside. And then the 2 end pieces we have here are number 2 again, your remaining number 2. Folding it down the middle, making sure it's down the middle. Taking my spoon, squashing those edges. And that should go to my wider end. And then we need the number 3 piece, which is treated exactly again. Folding it down the middle, making sure it's down the middle. Taking my spoon, squashing those edges. Okay, and attaching them with tape. And I shall do this super fast, as if sped up by some sort of technical wizardry. So, should look a little bit like this. And just to mix things up a little bit, I'm going to apply my hot glue to the inside of those joins before I thread the spine through this occasion. I'm just some sort of crazy free spirit, guys. There we go. The numbers should join together. So 2 joins to 2, okay? That seems obvious. So let's thread it through. And again, I'm not going to apply any glue to these. I'm not so worried about the distances between at the moment because I'm not gluing anything in place. Whilst that sets, let's get the middle piece, sorry, the front piece. The front piece, ready, pre-curving it, make sure we've curved it the right way. So it's going to sit like that. Getting our trusty spoon, flattening those edges. And there we have it, all pre-set and ready to go. And just as we did before, I'm going to put a few little tabs of tape to the top and bottom of those pieces. I'm going to hold that again. So I'm now going to close off the unit again with this front piece, and I'm applying glue here to the inside of this number 2 piece. And I put some tabs of paper on there, some tape, just so that I can close it off. Okay, and once I've done that, I'm going to flip it over, leave it like that. Wait for that glue to dry. There we go. So as that glue's drying, I've just gone around and tidied up the edges a little bit, taking off a few little bits of remaining tape. There we go. But that should be set, or at least set enough. And now we are going to repeat that step with the number 3 section. So upending it, letting it rest with the closed section on the bottom so that glue can seep into it. Now, while we're talking about glue seepage, always make sure you've got a nice cutting mat to do it on, or rather a not nice cutting mat, but a cutting mat, okay? Cutting mats are really useful. They not only protect your surfaces from things like hot glue, but they make sure your scalpel, your craft knife doesn't slip so much when you're cutting, okay? Which make all the difference. No one wants a chopped off finger when they were trying to make a fish, okay? But there is quite a few bits of glue that have seeped out from imperfect joints. That's just the nature of the beast with this sort of pattern. Because, you know, as I say, we're doing a lot of that closing the unit. Glue is going to seep out, and you want it to seep out onto something you're happy to get a bit of glue onto. You can just peel it off when it's cool, rather than your mum's carpet, because nobody wants that. She's furious at me. Right. Whilst that's cooling, we will move on to our last section, the head. Now, it may be our last section, but it by no means is a special section. We're going to do the same job as we did before. I'm pre-curving, I'm getting my spoon, I'm flattening my edges. Okay, now the piece that goes in here is number 4, believe it or not. Folding it in half, just as we did before. I bet you don't even need the video for this anymore. No one's probably watching. All right, flattening down those edges, getting a bit of tape. I've just applying some glue along that tank, which I will then leave to set. And more waiting. So whilst that's been setting, I've just been tidying up again, getting rid of things. But you can really see how it's taken shape, can't you? Now, it's worth mentioning that at the moment, these sections are not glued in place. Oh, where's a pair of tweezers when you need it, eh? Oh, almost a disaster, but he saved it. There we go. Whew. I did that on purpose so you guys could see what happens there. But it's super important that you don't pull those bits off, okay? Now, we are going to glue it down when we do our next section. So I've got my head. I've done exactly what I've done for all of these other sections. I've attached the numbered piece to it, and then I'm going to slip this through. Now, what I would recommend this time, we're going to glue this piece down. Now, the distance that you have between your body parts is going to really change how your fish operates. Whether it has loads of movement or whether or not it's super tight and has a more restricted movement, okay? Now, I would err on the side of trying to make it quite tight. But it's your fish. You make it the way you want. I would put it through, apply a bit of tape there, try it, move it, tape, try it until you've got a position that you like that works for you. I quite like them to be relatively tight, so I'm going to go with that. I'm applying glue to the end of the spine, and I'm just folding that down so it rests against the back of the head. There we go, like so. So I've put some glue on here, and I'm resting that. Oh, didn't wait long enough. Resting that against it whilst pushing it quite snugly against these other bits, which will hold your middle and your front in place. Whilst that is curing completely, I'll get my remaining headpiece, make sure I've got it the right way around, and you guessed it, pre-curve, flatten the edges, flatten the edges. There we go. So I've applied glue on the inside. I place that over the top. And when I've got it in a position I like, I'm going to put these tape down just to hold it in place as that glue cools to be as cool as a year 5 kid wearing sunglasses. Hey. There we go. And yet again, we've got to wait for a little bit. Now, whilst that's waiting, well, I'm going to show you these. Now, these are my eyes. So I've taken the eyepiece and I've attached the pupil bit to it. And then I've also got my black Sharpie out and I've coloured those in. Okay. So they're ready to go. I've also got my fins left to put on. So there are front fins and back fins. You can get your handy skewer and peel off that top layer if you would like. I quite like doing it a little bit on these. Just so you've got a hint of it rather than try and do the whole thing, something like that. And then I will put a little fold in it so they stick a little bit out from the body, they're not flat to it. Or something like that. And then, of course, remembering to mirror them to different sides of the body. So curving it again. Removing that top layer. There we go. So it'll be like that. But by now, hopefully, our glue will have set enough. And the next step is closing that unit again. So we have got the number 4 piece that still remains to be secure. I'm going to get my bits of tape. You're an old hand at this now. We've done it all the way along. You know what to do. Glue along the inside. And there we go. And resting it that way around so the glue seeps in. And whilst that's doing, I'm going to put a little bit of love into my fins so they're ready to stick on. So there we have it. So it is an entirely closed off fish. And really the next step is all up to you, okay, to decorate it. So what I've just done now whilst I've been speeding up is I've gone round and I've removed all the tape. I've taken off a few extra layers of the cardboard to give me this sort of spiny, finny tape. But I've also just tidied up a little bit. So there are a few sections, I don't know if you can see that, where the glue has overspilled. So I'm just going to tidy that up, and I'm going to do that by taking my glue gun, and I'm not squeezing it, I'm just applying some heat to those bits of glue that have spilt out. Just to flatten off any rough edges. And I'm going to, if you've got asbestos fingers like me, or you could use a piece of cardboard, just rub my finger over that joint as well, just to peel off any bits of excess cardboard. Excess glue that's sticking out. Okay. Next step is attaching my fins wherever I want them. A little bit of hot glue, pop. 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 Attaching that on, and your little fish. That's right. Now the next step is all... Oh. We'll pretend we didn't see that, did we? Certainly won't put that on YouTube. There we go. So there is our fish. Ta-da! Now I've had a little bit more time to decorate this one. I've just gone round with the black lines, and I've also... I tend to call them blemishes. Just cut out a load of cardboard circles and attach them. They're quite good as well if there are any discrepancies or little errors in the cardboard. If you've, I don't know, if you dropped a scalpel on it or something and you ended up with a little hole, you can cover it with these little blemishes. And that is our fish. So as I say, if you head over to our YouTube channel, you'll be able to see it in action in The Lostopus. I'll put a link somewhere. Do watch it and you'll be able to see the little fish, the big fish, and a bunch of cardboard boxes. Thank you.